the thing that allows me to have conversation with my ChatGPT is going to potentially make 50,000 jobs obsolete just from my projections immediately. And these things are happening quietly. They're happening immediately. They're happening. If it's not happening, it's because the company has not caught on, or it's not courageous enough to take this step.
Okay.
But when a company gets to companies get to financial precipices where you just have to throw emotions to the wind and be like, it's either the company or me. Put people on chopping block,
start saving money
immediately. But how do you save money? Everybody
profit.
go.
You are welcome to the Automating Inequality podcast.
Hi, my name is Blaze Abo, and you are welcome to another episode of the Automating Inequality podcast. On my left here is Victor Ekwalor.
Hi, Blaze.
Victor, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good. So, who is Victor Ekwalor? Now, let's go by what we have, what we can find on the internet. Right. So, Victor, over the past decade, has worked across Africa, the European market, and American tech ecosystems. Victor has worn many hats. Sometimes Victor is an operator. He's a 2X founder and also a key player in the venture capital and accelerator programs. Victor is currently building AI solutions for select African markets and global markets. Now, Victor, tell us something that we don't know about you that we couldn't find on the internet.
So every time we do these kinds of intros, I'm just like, is it me? Is this me we're talking about here?
Okay.
Something about me is I'm a creative problem solver.
Okay.
And it's the kind of thing that you won't know if you don't know me. I like solving problems. It's where my skill set is.
Okay.
My skill stack is at ambiguity. All the things I've learned over the years have helped me basically solve problems.
Okay.
So this is how I've worked in companies. The companies I've built have been at the intersection of making things better, experiences, products,
Okay.
solutions.
Okay.
How do we take a mixture of creativity
Okay.
plus tech plus all the startup wisdom we've gotten to make this thing better? Yeah, that's something about me. Creative problem solving.
So, off the top of your head, tell us one problem that you've solved in the past few years.
There's a lot. There's a ton.
Just one. We don't want too much.
Okay, so in 2021,
yes,
I started a company, and it was a blockchain company. One of my companies.
Blockchain, okay.
Yes, and our mission was to decentralize decentralization.
Okay.
How did this start? So I am a firm believer in that the future will be built on the blockchain.
Okay.
It's not all of this thing that's happening now, not all the crypto scams that are everywhere.
Crypto before crypto.
Yes.
Blockchain before blockchain.
The actual blockchain itself.
Okay.
Permissionless, ledger-based systems, trusted systems, and stuff like that. I've had this belief since 2017. I've just not been able to do anything about it because I've not had the bandwidth. In 2021, I had money, I had the bandwidth. And I'm like, let me build a company that does this. And that's how we started. I remember my value proposition was saying that I want my mother to be able to understand concepts of the blockchain.
Okay.
That was our vision. So we started from a community. We moved into newsletters. We did
the basics.
Just the basics for a start, right? We're moving into building the tech, tokens and all that kind of thing. Then SBF happened,
yes.
The crypto crash. And we went on for a while. But I think that was the problem that was solved because we were able to reach more than 10,000 people cumulatively across the different channels.
Okay.
And this is for something that didn't raise any funding, was not even generating revenue at the time.
All in.
All in, correct. So we solved the problem. That was it. So I came in and said, okay, there's a gap here. People don't understand all the jargons about decentralization.
I agree.
Make this work.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. I mean, think about the big words, the buzzwords, and something that the last person I had on this episode, on this program, and we were talking about AI, machine learning, autonomous systems, metacognition, neural links, and a whole lot of stuff, big words. And he said something, he said, please, yes, we know this because it's our space.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there are people who do not really care.
I agree.
When they wake up in the morning, the first thing they think about is, how will I eat today?
I agree.
Right? What will I eat today?
I agree.
And then everything we're talking about, AI this, and Meta that, and OpenAI this, and Sora that, they don't really care about. That's not the priority.
So when I talk to startup founders,
I
do a lot of mentorship. I've done with Google, with a lot of accelerators.
Yeah.
When I talk to founders, there are two things I tell them. Especially people building technical products. I'm like, it's something that's easy to forget when you're in the bubble of building. It's that a lot of people don't care. The average user does not care. I was trying to explain generative AI to somebody, and I said, you know what happens in Gmail when you're typing a mail and Gmail gives you autocomplete suggestion? It already knows what you're trying to say. And I was like, oh, I'm like,
that is relatable.
That's it. If we sit down and we start talking about
earth explanation,
all the models from China, from everywhere, it's like, oh my God, the average user doesn't care about stuff like that, and we can tend to get bogged down by all these complexities. But yeah, amazing stuff.
Okay, that's amazing. That's a good start.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Victor, this week has been particularly interesting.
Very interesting.
I mean, we had Claude Sonnet. We had Grok. We had 11 Scribe by 11 Labs. And so many technologies advancement has happened this week alone and even the week before it. I mean, what's your take? Are we moving too fast? In the broader view of what the society is, what AI is, how AI is trying to augment the society, I mean, it's like we are out-innovating reality and expectations.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
One word comes to mind: competition.
Okay.
And it's a good thing. That's what I think about when I think about this thing. And competition is always a good thing. I remember when ChatGPT was the dominant player in the room, OpenAI's ChatGPT, the dominant player in the room. And there were other people, there were other models.
It was looking like they were going to run away with it.
They were running away with it. And it didn't feel good because that was the making of a monopoly. It's like, this is the dominant player, nobody's going to come. I mean, I knew that was going to change with time, but that wasn't a good time. Compared to when other models started being released. And a good example was Deepseek. When Deepseek was released, the OpenAI people were like, oh, there's no big deal, but they panicked real bad. And I'm talking in under 1 week, ChatGPT had its own reasoning feature button. I don't know if you see it now. So it has charts and reasoning, which was basically copycatting Deepseek, right?
And they have deep research as well.
All of those things. What this means from a competition perspective is competition is better for the user. Competition is better for the technology because everybody is trying to outdo the other person, which is good. Users get a good end. The technology
get it cheaper.
Cheaper, better, faster. It's competition. Capitalism gets in the play. And it's amazing. So that's what I think about it. Are we out innovating reality? Are we moving too fast? Yes and yes. It's not such a bad thing. I was listening to a podcast. I don't remember who it was anymore, but they gave one analogy, which is that AI is, what we've done with AI is basically opening Pandora's box. And if you know anything about Pandora's box, you don't put it back, right? The cat's out of the bag, the cat's go, they run, they go. And we can't do anything about that necessarily. But I think that it's just going to get better. And with time, we're just going to learn to live with it, not control it. There's no control. Are we out innovating reality? Yes. Is that a good thing? To a large extent, depending on what we do with it, basically.
I mean, that's interesting. That's an interesting take. I mean, whatever I think about where we are today and what your reference to Pandora's box. I mean, I look back at how it was many years ago. When you had coders, right? You had people who built, the traditional guys who built websites traditionally, and all of a sudden we start having, no code, drag and drop. Some of them, again, the reality didn't really hit them on time. Because they were like, I mean, you reach out to a few consultants at the time, or contractors, operators, and they still were doing it didn't hit them. But again, you now had those who were out innovating them and taking all over the market, because in the end, you now see that new platforms, new versions were now supporting that no code, and not the old way of doing things. So again, it's just getting interesting.
I worked with somebody that used to sell websites. So you know how we have B2B SaaS in these days. What they used to sell back in the days was websites, and their pricing was from $200,000 to $1 million. for websites. That's how much they sold websites back in the day. I'd been born at this point.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not too far back in the past. 200,000 to 1 million. That's what it was. And imagine the leaps and bounds we've come in the last, 20 years.
Yeah.
And going forward, technology is improving exponentially, which means we're not growing at the same stage. We're growing exponentially in time. So yeah.
I mean, I watched a video from where Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, was being interviewed, and he was talking about 1995.
Yeah.
When around the time they just started the company, and at the time the likes of Silicon computers were like the big wigs, and these guys spend millions of dollars on GPUs.
Yeah.
Right. At the time, and again, he said he was just thinking, how do I innovate these guys? How do we solve the problem that we're facing? I think he practically walked into a supermarket, bought a book. I think he bought the book $27. And in his head, he was thinking, how do I make this cheap?
Yeah.
And easily accessible?
Yeah.
And if you watch the previous CES at CES 2025, the conference, right? Or something he said when he was presenting, he said, I mean, the GPUs now, you can basically buy them from between $300 to $2,000.
Yes. Yes.
All the way from where we used to be $1 million many years ago.
Exponentially. There is this old stock video that goes around of a plane carrying 10 megabytes of memory.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I do.
Yes. Of a plane carrying 10 megabytes of memory. Again, this was in the last 30 years. We've gotten to a place where the size of that thing that plane is carrying is a data center that powers the whole country. That's where we are at now. So exponentially, things are going to keep on improving at that pace, which is back to your question, are we out-innovating reality? Yes, it's not a bad thing, not so much. Depends on what we do with it, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So last week, Gemini launched their code assist.
Right, I saw that.
Claude as well launched their own code assist as well.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, think about, this is an onslaught.
I like that one.
Like we are being hammered with code assistants.
Yeah.
We have Replit, we have Bolt, we have Lovable, we have GitHub Copilot.
Yeah.
There's been so much of it.
So much.
And again, I think about the traditional software developer.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for me, I always think about those who still don't understand what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because in every crowd, in every time there is a new technology, there are those who say, no, we don't want to use this.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to throw away our fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
We're not lazy.
Mm-hmm.
We prefer to do it the way it should be, the way it has always been done. Now, the question is this abundance of easy to write, easy to use tools, is it widening the gap, or is it making it easy for whatever it is that we have that we call, MVP development, software development, platform development, blah, blah, blah. What's your take on it?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Those are the answers to the question. It's widening the gap. It's making it easy at the same time. I use Copilot
a lot.
And now, when I say this, I use Copilot, it sounds like a normal statement until I tell you that I am a non-technical co-founder.
Okay.
A non-technical founder. And for the uninitiated, that's like a founder that doesn't know how to code. I built a website very recently. And I think the people that underestimate this thing are people that have not experienced what it can do. It's magical in itself. We have a scenario where you type in text and it gives you a bunch of code that you can modify. I have a bit of knowledge of code. I know how code structures work. But this is something that people that don't even have any knowledge can learn to use. There's a 12-hour coding course where the promise, and more than 20,000 people have paid for it apparently, where when you start, by the 12th hour, you should have built your own B2B SaaS business.
Okay.
Your B2B software as a service business.
Okay.
And again, 20,000 people have bought it and they've said, oh, this is amazing.
Wow.
Right? So we have this very generational shifts that are in place. And there will always be the skeptics plus the people that don't believe, who are like, oh, this is my thing, it's not that bad. And I keep on telling my friends who are software engineers, and I'm like, a huge disservice you can do to yourself is not believing, saying this is not going to happen. Nobody knows categorically if AI is going to steal jobs or make jobs obsolete. We don't know for a fact what that feature is going to look like. Definitively. We can only speak to it, we can only contextualize, but the truth is, the future happens when it happens. You don't know. We can use frameworks and all those kind of things. But the best thing you can do, the best thing that can happen for somebody that works in a career where they code, the right code, is to learn to use these tools, understand what their capacity and their capabilities are. I'm going to give you a very good example. 2016, I was a technology journalist living in Lagos, Nigeria.
Okay.
And at the time, Uber just came into Lagos, Nigeria. It started from Lagos. Lagos is Nigeria's like major city. So I remember going out in the streets to do interviews, and I went to the cab drivers. And I'm like, oh, hi, what do you think about this new app that people are going to use to book new cabs?
Okay.
And these drivers literally laughed me out of the park. I wrote an article and I put it in there because I was just so confused. In my head, I had seen this thing. I've seen it in other countries, in other economies. I've seen what it looked like. But these drivers didn't know. They literally laughed me out of the park. And the people I went to, fortunately, unfortunately, are people that Uber had come to and had said no at the time. They laughed me out. Fast forward to, it wasn't up to 3 years, 2 years. These people turned around in protest, were destroying things because of how much this thing had out-innovated them, had revolutionized their industry. And the worst part is it left them behind. This is going to happen. And again, we talked about something in the beginning, exponential.
Yeah.
As time goes by, the impact of technology becomes exponential. It's not going to happen at the space of years.
Okay.
It's going to happen in weeks, in months. Like it's already happening as I speak to you.
Yeah. It's really, 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 I mean, just yesterday we were all talking about generative AI, right? And we wake up one morning and they're talking about agents, operators, officers.
Exponentially.
Like, no, we're not just generating anymore. We just going to have a bunch of AI guys doing stuff. One AI talks to the next, the next one talks to the next, and the next, and then if there's an AI boss somewhere, and that's just overnight.
Again, just for the sake of simplifying things and not using too much buzzwords, we essentially moved from AI as an autocomplete feature to AI as an application where you go put in a bunch of text and it gives you a document that an assistant, a human assistant, will normally give you. We moved to that, from that stage to this stage in months. And we moved from there to the agents that you speak about, the operators.
Oh, that's so like 3 stages now: autocomplete to a whole full document to an agent now who's able to do all of the above.
All of this have happened in the state of in this space of months.
What you said with the drivers reminds me of in the previous episode, the person we hosted, the individual we hosted, spoke about his experience in San Francisco,
right,
with the Waymo autonomous driverless cars. And again, a lot of drivers don't see what's coming.
Oh no, they don't. There is a bubble. I call it a bubble. I know there's a psychological term for it, but I don't remember. But it's a bubble that everybody gets into. And it's not a tech thing. It's not just an AI thing. It's the inability to have a bird's eye view of a scenario. Something that tech founders also get caught up in. You are in this career, so you are so comfortable. You believe that nothing is going to change the status quo of this thing. So because you're here, you're seeing how things are going. Jobs are great. Your job is great. It is secure. What can go wrong? What can possibly go wrong?
Maybe nothing either.
Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. We keep on earning the salaries we earn, go on doing the work. Like, you don't see how it's possible that the status quo is going to change. And you don't see it, and that's the problem. But the status quo changes in minutes. I'm going to give you a good example. So this website I told you I built. This is a real life scenario. I was working on a project. I needed a website. 2 things. I could not afford, because of the project budget, I literally could not afford to pay another $1 to have this website built. The budget did not allow that to happen. That's one. The second one, I have friends who I could ask to help me with this, but I know that once I did that, they are not going to leave their jobs or whatever to help me with stuff like this.
Okay.
And it's going to end up taking weeks. What did I do? I did it myself. And I did it in days. Again, I mentioned earlier, I am a non-technical founder, so I'm not supposed to know how to code, but I did this thing in days. And I I wish there was a way for me to show you. This is a functional website. Yes. So this exemplifies in real time what the future looks like, because I'm saying future in quotes because it's now. We're here.
We're already there.
Yes.
I was on an event, a networking event a couple of days ago, and I met. So one of the guys came with his son.
Right.
And so while I was speaking with a young man, so what do you do? He said he was an accountant.
Interesting. He's a teenager.
Yes. Okay. He just maybe like some level in the university.
Okay.
And I started asking him a bit about what how he sees AI today. He was still a big green. But I told him, I said, dude, the best thing you're going to do for yourself right now is go sit down. You don't even need to take any course. Just go sit down with one of these code assists.
Yeah.
And just start asking questions.
Right.
Just start making mistakes.
Right.
Start building.
Right.
Right. Just make mistakes. And when you make a mistake, ask it, how do I correct this? Yeah. Right. Like that's how much you could do. It's a typical learning engine.
I agree.
That's what it is.
I agree.
I think that's what you need to do. Them being young now, we didn't have that advantage.
Right.
You know, when we were a lot younger.
Yeah.
And we didn't have all of that.
Yeah.
But now there's an ecosystem. There's a world where anything is possible.
Sure.
I told him, dude, go sit down and start using one of these tools.
Yeah. And
get ahead.
Yeah. Right. I agree very much.
So great. Let's talk Amazon's Alexa Plus, which was also launched just this week as well. Now, right now, I mean, it comes with the promise of being agentic, being able to do shopping for you, being able to do numerous tasks for you, book holidays for you. But I remember when Amazon launched Echo in 2014, and the Echo came with the voice assistant, which is Alexa. It didn't really amount to much. In 2015, I think Google also launched TensorFlow, right, which allows people to build machine learning models and all of that. Then in 2016, Google launched Assistant as well. And Assistant came with the same promise. I mean, all of this is, again, I'm going to get to my point. I keep thinking that we are retrogressing in a way, right? I know this story very well because during that period, I mean, I used TensorFlow myself to build a couple of models. Again, something simple, chatbot that takes large amounts of data, simplifies it, and then allows you to retrieve it either by voice or text. I built a couple of them. One of them was for financial purposes, using interbank settlement system data. The other one was using historical election data. People wanted to know a history of the elections, the data around, everything, every aspect of it. I remember this very, very well. Now, we're talking voice, agentic voice assistants. So are we retrogressing? Because I feel like we've been here before, one. And two, our question is, what is the future of service-oriented roles, that had to do with voice?
Are we regressing? No. I think one way to think about it is how things change, but largely stay the same. All in the same way, sort of.
Okay.
It's interesting that you use these models and whatnot. I have a Google Home. It's a Google Assistant.
I have Google Home as well
in the house.
Yeah.
And typically we talk. What is this? What are my meetings?
How is your Google Home doing now?
Interesting. That's the thing.
Is it better now?
No. It's interesting, and I'm getting to that.
Mine is just somewhere gathering dust.
I still use mine. It's there. It's my primary device. And I ask the questions, what is my schedule for the day? What is my meeting? What's the weather? Do I take an umbrella, play music? It still does stuff. But the point I'm trying to make is I'm going to this point where as I started using ChatGPT's voice feature.
Oh, okay.
So these things have become my assistant. And I'm chatting with ChatGPT. I say, oh, hey, find me all of the airports in the United States of America. Found them. Where can I find XYZ? What airports are located at this specific kinds of location? And we have those kinds of conversations. I've interestingly found myself impatient with my own assistant. It's become something of a smartphone versus dumb phone type scenario, right? And we've come to this very interesting place where, like I said, things are changing, but they're staying the same.
Okay.
My Google Assistant is artificial intelligence, is AI. ChatGPT's voice feature is AI. Both are the same thing, that they're the same technology from different times.
Okay.
And again, it speaks to this thing we've been talking about very frequently since we began this conversation, how this technology has improved exponentially in such a short period of time, right? Now to your second question on how this will affect service roles. It's interesting, very, very interesting, because this is also one of the things that the people that work in these places do not think about. Even though, interestingly, it is a role that is being immediately affected by the emergence of AI, voice types of AI and all those kind of things. And like you said, interestingly, these models have existed for the longest time, where you can take data sets, use existing technologies to build systems that basically automates humans out of the service delivery line. An immediate example is Klarna, the Swedish buy now pay later platform. And Klarna has been very vocal about how much they've used artificial intelligence to cut down their workforce by thousands. We're talking like, I don't know exactly what it is at this time, but I know that cumulatively they've eliminated like 5,000 workers from their workforce. That's a lot. That's insane. And Klarna is going to keep doing that. More companies are going to join. They're just the ones that have done it more radically and more publicly. They're going to do more of that in the near future, and more companies are going to join. And Klarna is not the largest employer of labor anywhere, in Sweden, in Europe, in the world. Do that 5,000 people. Again, my numbers might be a bit off, but do that 5,000 times 10. Just immediately, we're talking like in the next 2 years, we're talking like 50,000 people, service people laid off. Just immediately, without any major shifts, just with the exact technology that exists today. The thing that allows me to have conversation with my ChatGPT is going to potentially make 50,000 jobs obsolete just from our projections immediately. And these things are happening quietly. They're happening immediately. They're happening. If it's not happening, it's because the company has not caught on, or it's not courageous enough to take this step.
Okay.
But when a company gets to companies get to financial precipices where you just have to throw emotions to the wind and be like, it's either the company or me. Put people on chopping block,
start saving money
immediately. But how do we save money? Everybody
profit.
go, So to answer your question more specifically, service roles are at risk. I don't say they're not low skilled roles. They have lower barriers to entry. The people that are there do amazing work, but they are at risk. And it's an objective thing. It doesn't matter how we feel about it. It's not the most amazing thing. And happening. Like every technology, there is a human cost. And this is going to be the human cost that we pay for this.
This is interesting. I mean, in the 1900s, I mean, I've used this remark multiple times, where you had 70% of the population working in farms in the US. And you come to 1940s, 1950s, and then all of a sudden you have technologies, you have machineries, simplifying farming, simplifying logging, tree logging, and so many things. And then that's why we have the swing 60s.
Yes.
Where you now have a lot of entertainment, cinema, fashion, people are going to a whole lot of places, because now suddenly they have time to enjoy their lives. They have time to party, because again, you think about it, around the 1950s, 60s, 70% of the work was no more on the farms anymore.
Right.
People were doing other things and all of that. So, it's just, that's what's happening now again.
This speaks to something I talked about earlier, which is that everything changes, but still largely remains the same. We as a people, and as a student of history, you see that we're going around in a cycle of sorts. It will have different undertones. It will have different characteristics. It will be different cultural shifts, but it's just largely everything. We're still going around in a cycle. If you think about this example you've given of the swing sisters, for instance, there was protests. There were protests the jobs are being displaced, bring back our jobs, yada, 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 yada. But with every technology, a section of jobs are axed. It brings in a new era. That's the beauty of technology. It's the abundance. If there will be human costs immediately, and again, like I said, this is a very unemotional approach. My personal preferences don't matter in this context. Nobody's personal preferences matter. What is going to happen is going to happen, regardless.
Frankly.
Yeah.
Let's talk Grok. Elon's Grok XAI and the Colossus computer, supercomputer at Memphis, Tennessee.
Right.
Now, Grok is in the news again. Grok 3 that came out just this week.
Right.
And then it's leading across math, coding, and science. And then the thinking behind that growth, how quick. I mean, think about it. A few months ago, what was Grok? Where was it? What was the XAI? It was probably down the ladder, right? I think I saw a few weeks ago that it was like the top what do you call it, app on the Apple platform store. All of a sudden, it wasn't nowhere. I mean, Elon started last, really, in a way. Now, let's leave Elon out of it and let's think about the Grok itself. Now, primarily, it had 100,000 GPUs powering it. And then, again, now it has 200,000 power in it. And the way that happened, that was achieved. I mean, experts were saying, and skeptics were saying, this can be achieved in maybe 2 years, right? That growth. But he did it in 6 months. And so again, I did a lot of reading and I found out how he did it. So what he did was basically, he diverted a lot of resources that were not being used from Tesla into Grok at the moment, Grok 3.
I didn't know that. But yeah.
Now, Grok 3, again, has multiple features. Amazing. I mean, for me, the most important thing about it, I see about it is the voice mode, which is about 28 options. So you have the flirty, the one that talks to you in a sexy way. You have the unhinged mode, which can basically call at you and say, "Come on, Victor, wake up in the morning and go to work," and can basically scream at you. It has the one that can sing. It has a singer. It has a songwriter. It has the one that does therapy. It has the one that is a professor. It has a storyteller. It has multiple layers. And so again, this multi-mode that it has, other engines, other models, again, like the likes of OpenAI and Meta and all of that, they all have restrictions. They all have their own voice thing working for them, but they all don't do this. So again, this is something that is new, but the question is usage, right? How are people across multiple cultures, across multiple generations going to, use this, right? Again, thing they say about what you say. You can say something and put it out there, but then how what you say is used or is perceived becomes the whole different problem. So what are your thoughts?
I think it's interesting. Like you said, Grok has grown in leaps and bounds since it was launched. It goes from being unknown. What is Grok? The people that know, but just came from nowhere, got to the top. And interestingly, the fact that people are, like you said, there were more than 20 of those kinds of modes released.
Yes.
But what everybody was talking about was the 18 plus mode, the not safe for work mode, the flirty mode. That's what everybody was talking about. Like, what does this mean in terms of censorship? Yada, 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 yada. On one hand, I think that speaks to what they're trying to do, which is get it in everybody's faces, make it more appealing to a wider audience, improve adoption, which it did. Now, there's something we always forget. Back to this bubble conversation we're having. We, being people that work in technology, work in AI and all those kind of things, we think that people care. People don't typically care. Unless you make them care, unless you give them something they can relate to and connect with.
Okay.
Now, one of the things, interestingly, is back to what they say, like sex sells. And the adult industry has proven time and again to serve as a very amazing accelerant for the adoption of technology. The first example, one of the earliest examples is when you think, I don't know if you remember, there used to be Betamax. Betamax was a video technology. It was better quality than VHS. But VHS allowed adult content.
Okay.
So VHS was adopted over Betamax. That was the first one. Now, the internet, one of the things that helped the internet catch fire was the adult industry. They were the first people that monetized content. They were the first people that refined payment systems.
Interesting.
That is number 3. Number 2, the third one is the AR, augmented reality and virtual reality technologies. One of the things that made them catch on was the adult content, basically.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. I remember 2000 I think 12, I got a VR headset because it wasn't mine. I couldn't even afford to buy it at the time. It used to be really expensive. I got the first VR headset and I was so excited by it. At that point, there were 2 things. And I remember, fast forward to 2 years, 2015, the VR industry, in Africa at the point, was struggling. And across the world, there was not enough content developers. The thing largely was people didn't care. What is this thing? I have a TV, I have a phone. Why am I wearing another thing over my eye? People did not give 2 shits about any of those things. But enter the adult industry at some point. And then it was like, what is this? So somehow, again, speaking to the divide, the ethical nature of things, those are things that regulation should take care of.
Okay.
Those are things that we should provide some sort of structure and framework around.
Okay.
A good example is social media. Social media platforms, to a very large extent, have a lot of 18 plus content, not safe for work options and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But the thing is that they have managed to put stopgaps in place. YouTube, for instance, you can set YouTube and say, this is for a child.
Oh, yeah.
So restrict this kind of content. Facebook, this is for a child. Don't show them this kind of content. Oh, even to your phones.
Sure.
So the iPhone has a setting where, as a device, it can restrict you from accessing 18 plus content. A lot of people don't know. You can press a button and you will not see any 18 plus content on your iPhone as a device.
It's interesting.
Now,
I don't know.
Exactly. Now, things like that to a very large extent help with technology adoption because these are things that people care about.
Stop gaps. Yeah.
Outside our bubble where we are excited by the latest model, I saw an interesting meme. It wasn't a meme, but somebody's tweet actually. She said her husband has been sick all week and that he just jumped out of bed to test the new Claude 3.7.
Tell me something.
She said, all praise to LLMedicine. LLM. So he play on LLM. She said LLMedicine. And it was so funny that I took a screenshot of it. But apart from people that are excited by things like that, let me test a new model.
Yeah.
People don't care. So how do we make them care? How do we improve adoption? This is exactly what Grok did. And it's why they were able to go from obscurity to the #1 spot. And this is what will be leveraged. And back to the first conversation I said about competition, this being before competition.
Yes.
Everybody is going to do this now. Everybody is going to have an 18 plus mode. The floodgates.
Yeah, because it's a whole new vertical. It just launched. It just opened. Why are we restricting? Let's open it up.
Yes. It is going to be it's a first mover thing that has happened, but everybody is going to get into the fray now. The question becomes less is this good or bad?
Yeah.
And turns into how do we set stopgaps? How do we put parameters in place? How do we put frameworks and guardrails in place? That's what the question becomes. But whether this is okay, and again, like I said, back to the point, this Grok was released. Nobody's talking about the GPUs. Nobody's talking about all of the things.
Let me tell you what we're talking about right now. Now, there was this guy called Levelcio.
Right.
And this guy, I really wish I can learn to do what he's doing.
Right.
Or maybe have the time and the bandwidth to do. Like this guy has basically used Grok 3 to build a game.
Right.
And in that game, I think he currently has over 30,000 users.
Right.
Just something that was just launched recently.
Right.
And so what does the game do? It's a 3D game where you have all sorts of verticals, like you have all types of flying devices.
Mm-hmm.
These things are not perfectly designed.
Right.
It could be something like a phone, and maybe it has wings and a tail, and call it a miniature flying aircraft or something. And so there are thousands of flying aircraft in there. And people are basically flying. It's like, what do you call it? Call it like Pearl Harbor, right? But in a game, people are just basically buying different flying aircraft. And so you come online, you subscribe, and then you can access some level of tiers of points based on what you pay, how much you pay to have materials to build. So people are basically building stuff in his game and just battling themselves and flying up and down.
This is something he builds off of this existence.
Off of Grok 3 that just launched. And so I remember just way before we even knew the capacity and the efficiency of Grok 3, and I heard somewhere that Elon was filing some patents for game development. That Grok 3, XAI will become a game development company or something. We didn't know what was happening. So across multiple, I saw something yesterday, some guys that were using the same prompt to build a game environment. And he did across multiple, about 4, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Grok 3, and Claude. And that of Grok 3 was amazing. 3D generation, superb. And when you go on Twitter, go on social media, you see multiple people are using Grok 3 to build these are guys who did not have previous experience of game development. Suddenly, they're able to develop and build all sorts of 3D, 2D, and 3D games. It's amazing.
It is. It is. It is what people care about. It's what people care about. This is what they can relate with to a very large extent. So this thing is some Call of Duty type thing where you pay money to buy skins, all those kind of things.
Yes.
This is very relatable to people. This is an application. And this is also the stopgap where technology founders miss, where you're just like, oh, we've done this. In marketing, it's the thin line between user adoption and obscurity. You are on one hand of your landing page or your website homepage, you're saying, oh, I've done these amazing things with these servers. We have 20,000 servers. We have this security. We have this data protection. On the other side, somebody is saying, come, let me make your life better. Let me improve your relationship with your wife.
Yeah.
What do you think the consumer will pick? They don't care about your servers. They want, how will you make my life better?
Yeah.
That's literally what we're seeing play out with Grok, for instance. And we're going to see a lot more of that in the near future. Again, there is always going to be the push. There is always going to be the generational divide. There is always going to be the question and concern of right and wrong. Okay. It's a valid conversation that should always be in play. Those divides, those conversations, those are the things that put checks and balances in place. They will always be there. However, they need to be addressed from a pragmatic place. Again, having guardrails versus, oh, kill this thing in the bud. Because that's the only way we're going to have adoption of any sort.
True.
Right.
So as of today, there are about 700,000, between 700,000 and 900,000 transcription jobs across the world. A few days ago, 11 labs launched their Scribe, speech to text transcriber. It charges about $0.40 per hour to get your transcription done. Now, this is something that a human being would charge between $15 to $20 per hour to do. But the AI charges $0.40 to do it. And it's going to bring you with flexibility and speed, because you can quickly say, oh yeah, okay, undo, redo, retranscribe. And it can do that. But with human being, there's that bottlenecks of human being first, like, okay, you have only a few limits. It might come, usually, it comes with the invoice. Okay, yeah, you only have like 2 or 3 changes to do before, if you want to go beyond 3 changes, I'm going to charge you more. But AI can do as much as possible, and there's speed and all of that. So again, you now think about what that looks like in the grand scheme of things. When people start adopting this technology, it's amazing, because for small businesses, who cannot afford. So that's the access is giving small businesses to easily get things done with a small amount of money. But then, in larger, bigger picture, there's a lot of implications. What are your thoughts?
Firstly, this inadvertently ties back to the kind of work we spoke about earlier that's going to be redundant. The future of something like transcription or transcribers is evidently non-existent.
Okay.
There's not going to be anything like that. There is no scenario where AI is going to support. It is going to render these things obsolete to a large extent. First of all, I think 11 Labs is amazing. I DM'd their CEO on LinkedIn. I don't remember why. Maybe
did they reply?
You have a good product or something. He aired me, but I think that they are really amazing. And I reckon that you spoke about these things helping small businesses, and I'm like, I am a small business. I paid so much for transcription. Number one. Number two, a lot of times, even when paying for those transcriptions, I still don't find reliable, fast, and reliable and fast services in that sense. This is a no-brainer. There is nobody, and I promise you, nobody. Maybe there are people who have this, who are sentimental and say, "Oh, I want to support human workforces,
yes,
so I'll keep on paying for transcription." But I promise you that there is no business that is going to bypass the fraction of this cost to settle for a human transcriber.
It's very big.
It's just the gap is too wide, and then there is, like you said, there's a reliability there. I paid for transcription before.
There's flexibility.
And I know how much work that I have to do to make sure that, oh, this stays within the parameters of what I want. Versus having this assistant that is instantaneous, that does not tire, doesn't ask you for anything, doesn't have rights,
doesn't sleep.
You don't worry
it doesn't
about
close
the
from work.
humanity of them. You can go at it and just like keep on doing what you need to do. And stuff like that is going to change the future of work. Again, this has rendered the career, the job of transcription obsolete now. Well, I know we always speak about these things as if they are the future. That's why every time I speak about how it affects the future of jobs, I do it in quotes.
Yeah, but it's happening already.
The gap between this stopping to be a conversation is just knowledge and awareness.
Okay.
How fast people learn that this exists. That's how fast this is going to go out of vocabulary. Somebody can say, "Oh, I work in transcription." How? Why? Where? Unless you want to get to the point where you do human labor and charge at the cost that the machine charges.
Oh, yeah. So in other sense, that should be the next thing you should be thinking about.
It's not going to happen. That's the thing. It's not. How are you going to do it? This is why it's machine. This is why it's a machine. It's like an artificial thing. You can't work at the rate of that machine.
Yeah.
Even if you somehow, through some magic, through some subsidization, manage to charge the same amount that the machine charges, you can't do the kind of work and the amount of work it does at the same speed.
So what becomes the future of transcribers today? Do you think that, the first thing you said is knowing that they have a problem and they are becoming obsolete or they are becoming annihilated.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the first thing is them more like accepting that this is happening and it's not happening in the future. It's already happening like yesterday.
It has happened.
And so what becomes the next thing? I mean, they have families, they have to eat, right?
I think this ties into a larger conversation where we are able to simultaneously have the conversation of humanity, job protection, and the reality of this Pandora's box that we've opened. All of this is they're not mutually exclusive conversations.
Okay.
Right. And because every time you have these conversations of AI taking jobs, creating value and resource, it doesn't matter how you feel about it, how you think about it. Every time you're in support of this, as a creative myself, there is this undertone of betrayal where it feels like you are a sellout. Like you said, they have families, and it's true. It's not a lie. There are people that have spent their life, and I know I worked in the media, there are people that have spent their lives, like there are old people who have spent decades transcribing work. What do they do? That's the question.
That's a good question.
Again, it's not a question that should be answered alone in the context of transcription or transcribing carriers.
Okay.
It's something that should be extrapolated to all of the career changes that this will evoke. How are we able to structure these things in a way that make it sustainable and feasible? Because if we keep on having these conversations in silos and say what happens to transcription, we move from what happens to transcription. We fight over it. We have we dance, do all of the things. Then we move over to service industry and say, oh my God, Klarna in Sweden has laid off thousands of workers. What happens to them? We dance. We move from there. We go to content moderators. We dance. AI is changing too fast for that to be a feasible approach.
That's the truth. We can't really catch up if we try that.
So it has to be a more holistic and well-rounded conversation. And interestingly, just as an aside, this is something that I am thinking about / working on.
Okay.
Right? From a very hands-on perspective, because it is a problem. It doesn't matter how you feel about it, it's a problem. And it's not a problem that you can approach. That's why I don't encourage the emotional approach to the conversation. We're humans, we will be emotional, but it's not feasible. Things are changing too fast for us to be.
Probably have to focus on the technical angle.
To be having the conversations of, again, what is going to happen to transcription? It's a conversation that will happen in a loop so much that by the time you're done talking about what this means for people that are transcribing professionals, lawyers are losing their jobs.
Oh, yes.
Right? So how do we have this conversation in the context of career, in the context of what work means, in the context of inequality, in the context of balance, in the context of access?
Yeah.
Those are the conversations we should be having.
This is interesting. It's an interesting perspective.
Right.
So recently someone, again, people go online, once there's a new model released, they try to look for some uncanny questions or ideas and say, tell me what you think, right, about this, or, find something that no one has heard before and hit me with it. And so recently someone prompted, uses that kind of prompt on GPT 4.5. And so it says, humans never truly pursue happiness. What they pursue is relief from uncertainty. But then happiness appears when uncertainty disappears. And that's what the AI analyze and put out there. What are your thoughts on that?
There is something I always say, and since we're already in philosophy territory, we will philosophize. I always think that what is happiness essentially? It's a question, very rhetorical question. And it's why I like the distinction between joy and happiness. Joy is more, it's semantics, but joy is more commonplace, more permanent than happiness. Happiness is fleeting. Happiness is subjective. Happiness is for some is the feeling they get from seeing their children or their child, a newborn child. For others is what they get from spending time with their spouse. For a lot of people is what they get from taking stimulants, alcohol, doing drugs. There's the endorphins that you get from exercising, from running. It's very subjective. It means different things for different people. And again, I always ask, what is happiness? People don't typically answer the question. I mean, you give the definition.
Maybe you don't know the answer.
They don't, not maybe. And a lot of times we reach this state where we believe, we feel happiness when we're able to certainly say, oh, hey, I'm calm. I'm in a state of rest. And rest is from certainty, from being assured, right? So it's to a very large extent, it's right. I always feel, back to AI, ChatGPT bringing this conversation, it's conversation like this that point to some sort of creativity. Because one of the things that the current models we have lack is creativity. And this is going to be the difference between models and agents. We've been speaking about agents for a while.
Yeah.
The ability to take initiative and go beyond thinking about what exists making something totally new, right? So this is interesting. It's an interesting take on philosophy, on life, on balance, I guess. Yeah.
I came across another one recently as well,
Right.
where again, I can't remember the exact words, but the AI was all about how much a lot of people who are human beings,
Right.
who are in decision making positions,
Right.
lack capacity to make the right decisions as of today. That was the AI's verdict. And then, you know, something comes to my mind. I don't know if you read any book from Isaac Asimov.
Yes.
Good. And, you know, so when you start reading stuff around the 3 laws of robotics,
right,
there's a place where something that has to do with AI reevaluating. So one of them is around AI not harming humans, right? But then there was a point whereby AI could be able to reevaluate some data and say, okay, you know what, even this human does not deserve to exist. And so now the question with AI making that statement, right? Question is, at what point could it decide that, okay, these guys have been making the wrong decisions, right? And after several analysis, I just feel, okay, I have to put an end to all of this, right? And that reminds me of a bunch of things I saw on the internet, I shared with you, where you see a crowd protesting, and you have, some countries now are using police dogs and, you know, police humanoids and all of that, and robots, you know, and there's one that was actively trying to go towards, again, they called it malfunction, you know, and it looked like he was trying to harm the human being. And all of these things that we watch in the movie, I don't know if have you seen Eagle Eye?
Yes.
Now, a bunch of things that we've seen, you know, iRobot and all of that. And it's more like we are engineering our own demise. You know, my last, the last person I hosted on this, who is a medical practitioner, he was saying that, he said, I can't be training my enemy. What he said. So it's just interesting. It's an interesting thought, really. I mean, I really love AI, everything it's doing, everything that it has the capacity to do, and how it's documenting. But then, yeah, it's like you said, Pandora's box is open, right?
There is a real conversation in that. There is also an alarmist perspective in that.
Okay.
Like I said, I know Asimov. My genre of fiction is the fantastical, so science fiction, time travel, all of the fantastical. So I'm very much inundated with these ideas, right? And I've seen them all my life. That's all I've always consumed: written, television, visual, audiovisual, and stuff. I know all of these things.
We're in the same club.
Yes. And when you think about it, a lot of the things we have today in actual inventions were dreamed up from the imaginations of these creators.
Perfect.
2 things. It's a real concern. How safety of human beings, safety of humanity, AI, you know, getting a mind of his own, being able to make these kinds of decisions, it's a real and valid concern. And from a strongly technical perspective, I can't speak to that. I don't know. However, I know for a fact that just from first principles, models are trained. And they learn over time. But as a lot of the initial foundation that goes into this thing is what we train them with. And it somehow ties into what you said earlier about people being unfit to make decisions, AI people are unfit to make decisions and stuff like that. And it's that human beings are inherently biased. So our biases show through in the decisions we make, in how we manage, how we govern. It is very heavy-handed. The idea is that AI is free of these biases, but most times the people that create the AI, that build them, infuse their biases into them.
Oh yeah.
There have been a lot of times where models are discriminatory. So you ask them for something negative, they bring
Oh yeah, even recently,
pictorial of a black person.
Even recently, yes.
Ask them for something positive, they tell you, they make it masculine versus feminine. So there's just all those kind of things. And what you see is the bias of the person who has created this model. That's first basic. Now, how does this translate into creating data set for this model learning going forward?
Okay.
That's the conversation. Again, I'm not an AI engineer, so I can't speak to it very lightly, but I know that there is something to be said, a conversation to be had around that. Now, the second part is on the other end, which is just amazing. I know there's a lot of panic, a lot of conspiracy theory, a lot of panic. Oh, the singularity. I'm just here trying to explain to you that the AI in my Gmail cannot still write my mail properly.
No, yeah.
And then we are worried that, oh, it's going to burst out of the cupboard and kill me. Yeah. It's like, fam, we're not there yet. We will get there. And again, it's a balanced thing. I understand this panic. And I feel like the way the world works, the way capitalism is engineered is, if we don't have this conversation, if there is not this panic, there won't be any motivation to create guardrails, to create frameworks, to create accountability. But this panic makes these things come into play. So they're not so bad. Yeah. But again, me that knows that I am struggling with the AI inside my Gmail to complete my thoughts. Language models don't still have agency. AI is not creative yet, which is still my edge. It's not going to be in the nearest future. And that's where humans have a part to play. So knowing all of these things, I don't think that this singularity is going to happen anytime soon. I don't think that AI models, that there's going to be an iRobots revolution where Sonny is going to bust out of the assembly line and that kill the humans. Yeah. So, like I said, there is a conversation to be had there. There is like a very valid thing, and I feel like all of the people that come with their diverse opinion, their fears are very valid. However, on the other hand, there's also a lot of panic, which is valid in itself, because that panic makes governments sit up. That panic makes corporations, industries to be more circumspect with what they do, with what they push out. Yeah.
So, Victor, still in the same breath, recounting the things that were launched just this week. Alibaba launched 1.2.
Yeah, the video thing.
Yeah, the video thing. And so, I mean, we have Vio, we have Sora, we have Pika. We have Luma. This is text to
video,
high graphical video generation. Now we're seeing the evolution of all the woods, holy woods, and all the all the other woods. And I think about this a lot. How much we can do, how much anyone is able to do. On TikTok, there's this guy I follow on TikTok. Is it TikTok or Instagram? And so what he does is a day in life of anybody. So it could be a day in the life of a Roman emperor, a day in the life of a Viking warrior. And so you see it's first person view. And so you basically see the Viking warrior, everything he does, whether he's at a partying or is farming or cutting wood or making an axe, going to war, sleeping. That first person view is what the person does, what the video generates, right? And he does it for multiple other scenarios. Yeah. Things that people will want to see. What is the day in life of a queen, or of a Mayan? And he does all of that. And again, I think each of them maybe like 1 to 2 minutes they're about, and he gets hundreds of thousands of views. That's cinema, right? That's impressive. But the question is, again, like I always think about those who learned to do things the traditional way. What's the future of that? The up and the down.
Creativity is one of those things that always shows me that AI has a long way to go, number one.
Okay.
And number two, it shows me that creativity and adaptation is what also makes us human in the end. Will AI get to that place where it's able to be end-to-end truly creative? I don't know. Maybe. It's looking more likely than not. I don't know. That's true. Anybody that claims to know, it's nice for thought leadership to be able to definitively speak to things, but we don't know. Yeah, let me not speak too much on that. However, like I said, creativity is one of those things. And when I look at text-to-video models, all of it that has existed, the ones that are okay, the ones that are bad, the ones that are great, I think about how this is going to look like in something like the film industry, for instance.
Okay.
It's able to make very nice videos.
Nice looking things. Shiny
things. But there is a complexity to film telling. There's a complexity to storytelling,
movie making,
that some of the Hollywood greats, that some of the storytellers have had intricately, that this AI has not been able to, create.
Okay.
Will it happen? Again, I don't know. Nobody knows.
I mean, remember you said something about how much fast it's moving.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Nobody knows. Anybody that says they know, they want to be a thought leader. It's nice to hear. Unless you definitively know something. Maybe you're training a model or something. Now, if we take all of Martin Scorsese's work and feed it into an AI model and train it, would it be able to create a new Martin Scorsese movie that is, oh my God, is this Scorsese? Would it do that? Would it be able to do that? I don't know. Nobody does know, right? If we take this work and feed it into I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan, for instance.
Okay.
And if we take all of Christopher Nolan's work and feed it to a data set and say, you be Christopher Nolan, the LLM, or yeah, give us film. Give us like this really expansive, extensive Christopher Nolan work. Will you be able to do that? I don't know. And it's not able to do that at the moment. That's what I can definitively say.
Okay.
Will it be able to do that in the future? I do not know. What I see, what I think, again, there's something I'm going to stay on. Everything changes and still largely remains the same.
Yeah.
In this movie industry that we'll speak about, there has been a lot of technological advancements in the last 50 years.
Okay.
From cameras to audio technology to projection to visuals to everything has changed so fundamentally. It's the kind of thing that if you don't understand, if you are not in this space, if it's not something you're interested in, you won't know, you don't care about it.
Yeah, true.
I was watching a documentary about the making of Kendrick's new Super Bowl performance.
Okay.
And you'll be hearing things like, 1,000 cameras moving in unison. When you see things like that, it's like, these things didn't exist 20 years ago.
Sure.
So filmmaking has fundamentally changed, has been changed by technology, right? I was listening to Jimmy, Mr. Beast, talk about what they did in Beast Games, and he was talking about how they got Adobe to tweak the Adobe software to accommodate some of the things they needed to do. Again, technology has done a lot. It has improved in leaps and bounds over the past few decades. This is going to largely be an add-on for that. We're going to see cameras that work with AI in real time. We're going to see editing, AI-based editing. We're going to see AI-based scenes, cutting, and all those kind of things are happening.
So hence augmentation, not replacement.
Thank you. That's a good articulation.
Yeah.
More augmentation than replacement, than fear, and all those kind of things.
So we should calm the fear down, the fear mongering down.
Maybe not. Right? So I think like there are low-level type roles, type skills that will easily be replaced.
Okay.
New jobs will be created, new roles will be created, new opportunities will be created. It will make industries potentially better, just as a whole, than it will be net positive than net negative. Right? That's how I think about it. That's how I see it. But nobody's sure of anything.
Yeah, nobody's sure of anything.
Yeah, so we can come in the next 5 years and it's like, Hollywood has changed fundamentally. We'll see.
So, Victor, I used Deepseek when it first came out.
Right.
And what fascinated me about Deepseek was its visible reasoning.
Right.
It showed you how it was reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
I think before Deepseek, the one the one tool that did it was was it Cos or was I think I saw it was VO. I don't know. I never used Cos before then.
All right.
But no, VO, when you put in a prompt, it will assess the prompt and then throw it back at you and tell you, okay,
This is how to make it better.
yeah, this is what you said, but this is how I interpreted it as. The same way when Deepseek came out and broke the internet and briefly crashed the market, right? It was I took it for a spin, and when I say hi to Deepseek, it tells me it begins to analyze the hi. Like, why are you analyzing the hi?
Yeah.
But then again, it was because I chose the deep research part of it, right? And so beyond then, every other person has had the deep research. OpenAI has deep research, and a bunch of them now has deep research as a new model in their AI infrastructure, AI platform. So now I saw something recently where Cambridge professors and Cambridge research experts were talking about how much they are losing their metacognition, they are losing their they just feel that they are not useful anymore. Let me use the word. I mean, I think there was a much complex word to that, but I want to use the word useful. Like, okay, before you found great use of yourself, that, oh yeah, I can spend time doing this, doing that. And in the end, you have that self-appreciation and fulfillment that, oh, yes, I did all of that. This is my work, this is my research, take it. And then you have that pride. But then all of a sudden, everything that you've known is out of the window. Now you can just click, drop down, and you pick your deep research there and say, yeah, and then it's doing all that deep research. And then when it's done, it can quickly do all of that for you in just a few minutes. So a lot of people are losing it. Just in the short term response. What do you think about that?
Sam Altman gave an instance I found really interesting. He said that AI is going to get us to a point where nobody will need to do work. We'll just chill, and all the agents will be making money while we are
what we're going to be doing then?
Living our best lives.
Living our best life.
We'll figure that out. I feel like that might be idealistic and extreme. However, I also don't disagree. I think what things like this do is that they free us up from grunt work.
Okay.
And we will find value in more fulfilling work. Now, remember, it doesn't matter how you feel about Maslow's hierarchy. There is the part where when we get to that part where we don't have to worry about all of the basic things, we are now thinking about fulfillment. It gets us to that point to a large extent. There's something I believe very strongly, and I apply it a lot to like technology, building technology, interacting with new technologies, and this starts, I've said it 100 times here. Everything changes, but likely remains the same.
Okay.
We used to farm. Our forefathers used to farm.
Frankly.
It used to be the occupation. Everybody in the family is farming or hunting.
With pride.
We didn't farm.
Yeah.
You didn't farm.
Yeah.
What did you do? You found a career. You're doing fine. You're not toiling in the farm. You have a new career. Have a new life. It has freed up your time. You're living a more fulfilling life now, right? And the next generation of children that are going to be born, career for them and jobs are going to have a new meaning, which won't be toiling in a 9 to 5.
Frankly.
What will they do compared to farming? It will free them up for new pursuits, for fulfillment. Somehow, the more we change, the more we revert to sameness.
No, say this thing.
There is something in philosophers of old, the Senecas, Marcus Aurelius, they had times where they just sat down and actually used your brain to think, ponder on life. I'm like, what is happening? What does the future look like? Maybe we need that bandwidth. Society has conditioned us into this place where we feel like we have to grind, drudgery. And I'm a workaholic.
We have to hustle.
Yes, I'm a workaholic. I enjoy the work that I do.
Are we not all workaholics?
Yeah, I enjoy the work that I do. I do it so much. But a lot of times you ask yourself, what if I had more time to sit down and think about life? Some of the intellectuals, some of the people that have done great things have had time. And one of the things that I have incorporated as an adult is boredom.
Have a time where you don't do anything.
Don't do anything. And what best allows you to do that than a technological agent that does all the minor tasks for you? You don't do anything.
I think there's someone who says that I don't know if it was Warren Buffett or one of these billionaires who says that he spends there's a time in the day where just stays and does not do anything.
Oh, I do that.
I just think, just focus,
I do that.
Nothing fancy. I'm just not doing anything.
I mean, I'm no Warren Buffett. I'm not rich, but a day that I am busy throughout, I consider that it's not an ideal day for me. I don't equate business with productivity, and I know I try to optimize my life to get to that point where I'm not always constantly busy. So again, like I said, what's better to free us up to be able to enjoy our lives, get new breakthroughs than agents that do low-level work for us. That's what we think about it.
Good, truthfully.
The Automating Inequality podcast.